Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. I have with me Miss Cleo Paskal. Firstly, Namaskar, welcome to the show. She is one of the foremost experts as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned. She goes there, she sees it with her own eyes, so I trust her opinion. Thank you, Cleo, for the time, and of course, it's been long that we've caught up, but as they say, better late than never.
Yeah, thank you. That's very touching. Thank you very much for your kind thoughts. I try, but I've been out of India for it's been too long, so I have no idea what's going on in India. So you're gonna have to catch me up on that, how things are being responded to, because minute to minute it's changing so quickly.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. So how do you what do you think about this whole war that happened?
I don't know. It's not my area of expertise at all. So
Mm.
I know I know what it's like when people talk about areas where I've tried to spend time and they don't know anything, and so I take that message to heart, and I don't try to pretend I know something when I don't. I mean, I don't know how to think about it. It brings up at a macro level. I've been spending a lot of time recently studying the Spanish American War,
Hmm.
and there was a one of the issues that the Americans has, this is 1898, was the war started in the Caribbean over Cuba, but that put it at war with Spain, and Spain had a lot of colonies in Asia, obviously including the Philippines. And what that meant was that the US fleet had to leave neutral ports. So the US Asian fleet was in Hong Kong, and the British said they had to leave because, or be impounded, or basically, kind of do what just happened. The soldiers come off and the ship just stops. So that was one of the motivations for President McKinley, to say, well, basically, either we're gonna have to leave port, so either we use all of our coal and get back to Hawaii and just sit there, or we try to take Manila, and then we'll have a port because we'll have taken Manila. So it's interesting to see these issues of what do neutral ports do in times of crisis come up again. If you're a ship at sea, how do you handle that? So that's kind of the only messages, or the only macro lessons I think we have enough information to start thinking about now, because the other things are just, they're so deep and complex and old. So for me, I'm just trying to understand at least that part of it.
When you see the structure of the world, one thing is that there is the battle between US and China, which everybody thought would happen, has started, and a lot of people are uh, putting Venezuela and the actions in Iran as anti-China actions taken by Trump, you know uh, as part of the US larger strategic policy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely from the oil perspective, it's hurting China. The
Mhm.
other thing is that if you talk to older American military people, um, these are the unfinished wars. So
Mhm.
you talk about how people don't want Trump to start another endless war, but for U.S. Marines, the Iran thing just been a 47-year long war where they just, where they took punches and haven't fought back. And the Venezuelan regime has deliberately targeted. I mean, as you know, there are terrorist organizations operating through Venezuela, or have been, as have the Chinese, have had the Russians, and it's been kind of a launch point for some of the operations into the U.S. Um, so I think that, yes, there's the China element is definitely one layer of it, but there's a real age divide in the U.S. in the way that Venezuela and Iran, and of course now they're bringing up Cuba, is being seen. Um, in that, older people tend to think, okay, this is Trump finishing things off that have been going on for too long, and younger people are thinking Trump is starting stuff. when there's too many problems at home to be dealt with.
That's the MAGA, right? That's what the MAGA is saying.
If there's a point, it's coming from both the left and the right. You
Mm.
know, it's yeah, it's coming, but it is definitely coming from what would have been younger MAGA voters. They were never. Trump brought together a very broad coalition, and these were people who they weren't necessarily Republicans, and in fact, they may not have voted for years and years and years, and they voted for him in the last one because he said no new wars and deal with the cost of living. And if you remember at the time, there was a lot of inflation, the border issue, and so now they're. I mean, they might have called themselves MAGA, maybe, maybe not. They probably wouldn't have called themselves Republican, maybe, maybe not. Independents, but you're getting younger people who may just not show up to vote again, and I mean, especially in the midterms. So it's very noticeable the age difference in the approach to what's going on.
What one thing is there is that uh, they, as you said, these are the unfinished business, which is the part of the seven, whatever the seven state war strategy or whatever it was, as they say. Uh, there is one thing that uh, kind of baffles me is that the way this was done, right? They went into Venezuela and did what they did. It's a very different approach from what the Americans have been used to for a long time, right?
Yeah.
It's not the regular American approach to war. It's very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Trump administration is really different. Yeah, I I see it in the Pacific. He was he Trump has a very long track record of public commentary on strategic issues long before he was president. And he said long time ago Iran shouldn't, he was concerned about Iran. He didn't, the kind of idea of major regime change stuff. He goes and he receives the bodies of the fallen at Dover when they come home. He talks to the families. He's not a big war guy. Um, so and the other thing is, for example, people say, well, his son, if he likes war so much, Barron should join the military and he should go to the front, and which is, I think, it underestimates his understanding of the people that he just are around the people he just killed in Iran. Because if you know anything about the I mean, especially after he killed Soleimani, he when he made that decision, he knew he was putting himself on a target list for extremists for the rest of his life. And by killing the Ayatollah and Ayatollah family members, he's put a target on his whole family, including his son, for the rest of their lives. You know how these people
Yeah,
work. For it could be in 50 years, they'll still be trying to get his son, right? So the idea that there's a cowardice involved, I don't buy that. Um, I think that he truly believes it, that what he's doing is in the best interest of the United States of America over the long term, and he's putting himself and his family is making a decision that's going to imperil them for their lives generationally. Um, but it's not because he likes war. I mean, whether it works or not, I just don't know. I mean, I really I don't know how these things work. But it is, and it's also different. It's more like the punitive expeditions that you saw in the kind of 19th century. Like it's a different sort of thing.
it is different. Yeah. Uh, I mean, the Chinese reacted with shock when uh, Venezuela happened, and I've seen the reactions in China are even more, I mean, astounded when they saw this thing in Iran. How do you think it's this whole military operation, as per se, has changed the perception of Iran as far as America is concerned?
The you mean how China is looking at?
Yeah,
Yeah,
U.S. military
yeah.
and going
I
forward,
mean,
because there was the narrative, oh, U.S. military is weak, it's powerless, it can't do anything, it's this, it's that, and the other. It can. I mean, fighting a war 6,000 kilometers away from you in this intensity,
so
it's.
you'd be better placed to kind of appreciate the military aspect of it than I would.
Mm.
Um, uh, it seems like it's been pretty exquisite. I mean, it's a very odd use of term, but very kind of I'm thinking more of the Venezuela one than the Iran one, because the Iran one is on a scale that I just can't comprehend. But to go in and snatch Maduro and his wife and get out without any loss of life on the US side, um, in like that's impressive.
Mhm.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. That's what I'm saying. It is very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, I don't know about the but there's so much I don't know, because you get all of this stuff. What about munitions? What about this? Okay, I don't know all of that. I just don't know. What I am seeing separately, and that's why I brought up the Pacific briefly, is um, you're starting to see. We've talked about this, you and I, before, about how one of the ways that the Chinese get into places is through corruption. And so if you don't go after the corruption, you're not really going to be able to get them out. And you're starting to see agreements being done between sort of the US and Palau, or um, there are some other things that came up, where they're going to be helping countries go after Chinese linked corruption, and organized crime, and Chinese organized crime. And in the political, I'm more of a left of bang, before you get to the stuff blowing up person, because I prefer if things were blowing up. So, so if you're gonna hit the Chinese hard there, then this is how you do it. You bring in investment. It's the block and build thing. You try to block the illegal, coercive, aggressive, and deceptive Chinese activity, and you try to bring in investment. And you're seeing that in the Pacific Islands. They held a big investment in the Pacific Islands seminar, brought in presidents and prime ministers from around the Pacific and various American and other companies, and trying to combine it with US federal financing, but also with companies like Strider that can help do auditing of, or like say, research into companies that want to invest, to make sure
Mhm.
that they're not, badly motivated or illegally linked. So it's fits and starts, and it's just starting to take shape, but it's the first steps in the right direction to what's required on the political warfare battlefield to cause the Chinese a problem. So at the same time as you've got all of this big, you know, after bang stuff going on elsewhere, what I've been looking at more, because I'm it's easier for me to understand, is this shift in an attempt at kind of political warfare pushback in parts of the Pacific that I haven't seen before.
Mhm.
Have you been hearing anything about that, or?
I have actually, but what? Tell me more about it. What have you been hearing?
So, I mean, the first kind of package that I saw was the one with Palau, which was signed at the end of December, where Palau said it would take in up to 75 deportees from the U.S., people with no criminal records. They're people that have been um, are are not in the U.S. legally, but they can't go back to their home country because they might be at risk or things like that. Um, and but they have no criminal record. So the US asked Palau to take up to 75 of those, and they would get paid like 7 point, basically $100,000 each for the cost. That's got what got the headlines. But the rest of the package of deals included sending people to help Palau with counter cyber operations, because the Chinese have really, Palau is a country that recognizes Taiwan, so the Chinese have been all over it, with transnational organized crime investigation and prosecution, with customs and borders enforcement, with better intelligence sharing. And the U.S. also designated the president of the Senate of Palau specifically for Chinese-linked corruption. And this is in a country of 20,000 people. So I think they're kind of testing out this kind of package where you can, and they're going to help fund a hospital, and they stabilize the pension fund. So the U.S. did. So basically, they're trying to stabilize the society and the economy while helping the country build a shell to protect itself from the destabilizing effects of the Chinese political warfare. And and then to show that Palau is helping the U.S. with, or the Trump administration with its priorities. Palau said that it would take in 75 people. Now, the problem is that was controversial domestically, the 75 people. And the president of the Senate was very much against it. And because the timing of his if you're designated by the U.S., that means that in this case, you and your family can't travel to the U.S. anymore.
Mm.
But the U.S. government didn't, as far as I know, at least not yet, given the designation package, which shows the proof of that, to Palau. So Palau can't prosecute him. So he's still president of the Senate. And the U.S. is losing the political, the narrative warfare part of it, because the president of the Senate is saying, oh, well, they just designated me because I'm trying to stop their 75 people from coming in. So that's why I'm saying it's like fits and starts, right? Like, yeah. So
That's a little weird.
Yeah, but at least it's interesting to watch, because it shows you where more work needs to be done. Basically, they didn't get ahead of the narrative, and in fact, it's not even a narrative. They didn't get the truth out, which is these designation packages take years at the least. So it has nothing to do with that specific event, but they should have given, if they have, because what the guy is saying, the president of the Senate at Palau, it's a very important position, is saying is, if I'm such a bad guy, charge me. And the Palauans don't have what they need to charge him. The U.S. hasn't, as far as I know, shared that. So it's a very persuasive argument. You've wounded a lion and left him in place. So he's going to cause as much damage as he can for, as long as he's in place. Yeah. So but it's new. It's because the conversation was, this isn't stuff we've seen before. Kinetically, and I'm saying in political warfare battles, this also isn't something really that we've seen before, and it's fits and starts, but it's in the right direction. So that makes sense. Yeah,
it does make sense. Now, when okay, that's quite interesting. So there's action, but there's kind of
it's not tied together. It doesn't have as many pieces. There's a will. Let's put it that way. There's what's been missing before was the political will. So I know that. So the U.S. designated this guy and another guy in the Marshall Islands, a guy who basically, they say, raided the trust fund for one of the settlements for radioactive for after the Bikini Atoll tests, the nuclear tests, this was a settlement fund for Bikini Atoll, and the local Marshallese guy apparently allegedly took off with the money. So they designated him for that also. But again, they should have charged him. Yeah. But the point is that I know that both of these cases have been pending for a very long time, and nothing happened under the Biden administration. And so it almost like restarted at zero under the Trump administration. But it showed that there was political will to do it. Like there's so many cases where people there's clear misconduct at the very least. So many cases. And that's key to changing the cost benefit analysis of taking Chinese money. Is if there's no downside to it, you'd be dumb not to take the Chinese money. But now I know that there are people in Palau who, having seen what happened to the president of the Senate, maybe won't go on that trip to China, that free trip to China that they had been offered. So it
Ah.
does because they don't know. Maybe they don't want to getting for somebody from Palau not being able to enter the U.S. is a problem because they're not that many direct flights, and one of the main connection points is through Guam, and also a lot of people do their healthcare in Guam, or they have relatives in the U.S. So it's a big hit. So they don't. So it has some deterrence effect, but it would have substantially more if the guy was then prosecuted. So
Hmm.
that's what I say. It's like it's very interesting, but it's missing pieces. Meanwhile, the Chinese are moving. I remember we talked about the runway on Wooley, right? The runway that the
Mm,
Chinese were
mm,
building on
mm.
this atoll in the neighboring country of Federated States of Micronesia. That Chinese state-owned company has finished that runway and has now moved to the main island where it's doing a bridge and is about to do secondary roads. So, there is still this constant push of Chinese state-owned companies to get in at the ground level. So that's why going after the corruption and changing that cost benefit analysis for the local officials is so important. I had just last one, you know, I have a friend in that area, and that she's from a small island, and the Chinese offered like $100,000 grant fund that locals could apply for money from. And she asked me, she said, we're having problems on our island because we don't have the equipment we need for food security, for gardening. We just need like a small backhoe so that we can improve our gardening. Should I apply to the Chinese for the money? And what am I supposed to say? I mean, you know, they need the food, right?
Yeah.
They need the food. I know the macro of it, which is that the Chinese are giving the money because they want them to get addicted to the Chinese money so that they don't say anything bad as the Chinese state and fentanyl has already arrived in Yap, start to move in and destroy their society from the inside. But in the meantime, they need the food.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Hmm. Stick with it, I think. You know.
I don't know. I like really don't know what you do. Anyway, I gave her, and the other thing is, of course, how did the Chinese state make that money that they're then giving out to them? But anyway,
Oh, that's China can make money. Now, let me just bring in
yeah,
certain perspective. One of the
please.
things that I see is that US, what has done in Iran, has basically pulled out China from there, right? There's been a bit of a challenge as far as the Chinese influence in that region is concerned.
Yeah.
You've also seen, the Venezuelan area also cut up, which is a very important part of the Chinese low cost, low energy sort of this thing. The Russians had an upper hand on China as far as the Chinese had an upper hand on Russia as far as Ukraine is concerned. But with this energy getting cut off, that equation kind of reverses because the Russians actually get an upper hand
Hmm.
as far as the Chinese energy is concerned, or they can just go buy it at the dollar which is available in the market, which the Chinese obviously won't want to do. So effectively, the Chinese have been kind of put in the corner pretty nastily by these actions that have taken place in the past 3 months, and
Yeah.
everybody expects a reaction. What do you think will happen?
I don't know. I mean, there's that, and there's also I don't see. I don't know the. This is why I'm not diving in with 2 feet into the topic, because there's also the question of what happened to all the air defenses. Both the Russian and the Chinese air defenses, both in Venezuela and in Iran, and like I don't know why they didn't work. I mean, I don't know whether they were just taken out or whether they don't like it. So because that's
They're
you know
individual pieces, militarily
yeah
speaking. Sorry to interject. They're
yeah
individual pieces, which is not uh, uh, you have to have a air defense structure
Mhm.
where everything is simultaneously interlinked. Then the systems actually give the better sort of a this thing. It's called an integrated air defense system,
Yeah.
where from ground level to, let's say, 100,000 feet, you've got complete coverage of what's
Yeah.
happening. And that's done through various different things. You've got satellites, you've got near Earth satellites, you've got high altitude, drones and stuff like that. And then you have, probably surveillance aircraft. Then you have your own radars and
Mhm.
uh, ground-based radars and air-based radars and this and that, AVACs and everything like that. So there's an integrated air defense system which actually gives you the result.
Mhm.
When you have pieces, individual pieces, it doesn't give you the result,
Mhm.
because no matter how great the piece is, it will never be able to perform until and unless it gets the entire data set.
Mhm.
And that's where I think, see, because what happened was the Iranians basically pulled in a lot of things after the 12-day war. Okay, I'm getting this.
Mhm.
It won't really work.
Mhm.
So I'm not very surprised that these things failed. Uh,
Yeah.
no matter, I mean, even if it's the Patriot or the THAAD or whatever,
Yeah.
unless it is interlinked to that entire integrated system, it'll not work. It'll just
Yeah.
not work.
So I'm that's helpful because I'm thinking of it from the point of view of countries that are thinking of allying with China, or because that's been their thing, right? Is
The
they've gone
systems are
around.
great. The Chinese systems have flaws. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
They're, I mean, and we've seen them. We've actually acted upon them as well during the Pakistan conflict.
Yeah.
They have flaws. The Russian systems are okay as long as you interlink them. If you don't
Mhm.
interlink them, then any system, Patriot, THAAD, S300s, S400s, the HQ9s from the Chinese, or HQ1627, I don't know. The Chinese add 10 digits to their number, to their air defenses. They repaint the thing. Oh, okay, this is 9. Wait, wait,
Mhm.
wait. Let me paint it. Let's make it 19. They change 4 screws, and
Mhm.
uh, it won't work. It just won't
Yeah.
work. And we've seen that in Russia as well. The same
Yeah.
S400 system performed so well in India because it's interlinked with our systems, with our softwares. On a similar lines of threat, it's not been able to give that kind of result in Russia.
Mhm.
It's because the integrated air defense system just is not there. They're still kind of working on the software there. Here we worked on the software first and got the systems later, and we
Okay.
linked them. So it kind of worked with us.
Yeah. Got it.
So
So yeah.
you're right as far as the partnerships are concerned. But what do you think about the influence of China? And that's something which we need to map, because which will also tell us how Xi Jinping will react.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So that's what I'm trying to disaggregate. So you've got a situation where, um, you know, I, I wouldn't want to be a dictator relying on my relationship with China to keep me safe right now, right? That's
That's a good point.
yeah. So it's militarily they seem overmatched, whether they are or not. It's what it looks like, and they're not keeping their vassals safe, right? The Maduro got snatched. The Ayatollah got, is no longer on this
Um,
earth, along with several layers beneath him. So, if you're, because the Chinese have been, exporting an autocratic system, and the implicit agreement in an autocratic system is it's a hierarchical autocratic system. Will help you be a dictator, or degrade your democracy or whatever, like you see in Solomon Islands, but we'll keep you safe. If you need backup, we'll come and we'll back you up. And the those autocratic systems are not safe. They're not being kept safe. I mean, that's the Venezuela message. That's the Iran message, because it's not. I'm talking about, or the people make decision makers in Iran, not as a country, just as individuals. How does this affect their decision making? And the you I think the decision making is, China's not going to have my back. Um,
Point.
and Cuba's, maybe next. So where did
That's a good point.
Yeah. So where does that leave, you know, others? So it's just it's I don't know whether that's going to end up being true because I don't know what the end state of the Iran thing is, obviously, or but I'm just saying right now. You're asking me right now, how does it affect? I don't see a lot of countries going to bat for China at the moment, and I think it's obviously for their own reasons. Maybe North Korea, maybe for if it moves on Taiwan, who would back up China to move on Taiwan now?
Very
Because
few.
yeah, well, just because they've now those individual dictators have now seen what this president is willing to do.
Mm.
So
I, I'd actually expand. It's not the president, it's what America is willing to do. Because president is just coming and going. At the end of it, if this is the policy, it'll be taken forward by the rest of the guys as well.
it may or may well, that's why what we were talking about before about what's happening with the younger generation
Mm.
is this is not popular. Like this is going to probably cost him the midterms.
Hmm.
And it's not uh, the majority of I mean, the Senate doesn't really have his back, even though it's a Republican Senate. They're not passing the SAVE Act, which is the kind of the Voters Act. He'll probably lose the House. I think that at least some are thinking, they'll wait out Trump. And in fact, may not have to. They're probably thinking they may not have to wait out long because once the midterms come, it might severely limit his ability to operate because if the Democrats win the House, they'll probably try to impeach him again. Um, so
That'll be fun to
yeah.
watch.
Well,
Especially.
I mean, what it does is if your concern is something like China or whatever, you know that there'll be as much Chinese money as they can pump into the system to try to make that happen, because it'll tie him up at home. Um, I don't think, I think we've seen US capabilities combined with political will to accomplish goals with those capabilities, but I'm not sure we'll see a political will to use those capabilities in that fashion, um, right or wrong, necessarily again. Um, it is this is take is the projections, currently the projections are they might lose both the House. They'll probably lose the House, and they might lose the Senate in the midterms. And it may, and a lot of the people who came out for the Trump coalition won't, may not vote in another presidential election, at least not the next one. Um, Apparently, there's some sort of, um, you know, not uh, there may be a not redistricting, but a kind of a redoing of the way that the seats are based on population changes with the census for 2032, which might give advantage to the Republicans again. So there's some people who are saying, for example, that JD Vance should sit out 2028, and because it's going to be so hostile, such a hostile environment, and then run in 2032. Like that's how far out people are kind of planning based on what looks like the collapse of the Trump coalition.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. There's now reports about the Chinese wanted to kind of um, you know uh, invade Taiwan in 2024, and I think Zhang Jia stopped Xi Jinping. Um, I don't know how much of that is true because there's just so much rumor coming out of China right now. It's not even funny. But the sheer fact Xi Jinping literally took out everyone from the CMC is, uh, I mean, there are only two people left. There's Xi and there's one guy who's supposed to be the note taker in the
Mhm.
CMC. I mean, as per what people describe him. Um, is that military not standing with Xi, or do you think with
It
the
sounds like, I mean, it's the most likely thing I've heard is this, it's consolidation. I mean, it certainly shows he can get what he wants. But that's why kind of I keep my focus on those ground shifts, like the company that is going from Woolly Eye to Yap to, the bridge to the, because as long as that momentum is going, this all costs China money. And this is a
Mm,
it's US dollar cost. So even in these small places where it costs the money to in place and get in on the ground, that's all still going full steam ahead. So, it's it's an operate they're trying to still consistently trying to change the operating environment, and in a direction that undermines US presence and broadens their maneuvering space as they see it. So for me, I don't know what's happening in that impenetrable box of the CMC, but I can see from the ground that even at that level, it's full steam ahead. The money is still there, the personnel is still there, they're expanding on the ground, and it's all with strategic intent. I mean, there's no economic angle to it. There's no I mean, it's not charity, so this is strategic emplacement. A Yap is just is right along the second island chain. It's in between Guam and Palau. So highly strategic location. And the efforts are focused and successful.
mm, mhm. That's very interesting because the Chinese, as per se, their military requirements, if they want to get into the next phase, will only get even more extreme, right? So there
Yeah.
is going to be the demands which will go up, and you don't have the experience to do it. So there, and I'm seeing one thing which is very interesting is that their military forays into Taiwan have down. There's just very little happening. There's no, I mean, I've not seen a major, incursion by the Chinese Air Force into the ADIZ. I've not seen the Chinese Navy kind of venturing around in that area. I've not seen all that. And
Recently, yeah, there was whatever it was a few months ago. The interesting thing about that was there was, I think it was during a period when the pundits say is like not the usual period. But there's uh, I don't know how to read those tea leaves. So the people that look at Taiwan a lot, who I speak with, don't seem, again, there may be ups and downs. We'll see. There was a Truth Social I mean, I don't know when this is going to go out, but just recently, where Trump was saying he was keeping the Strait of Hormuz open as a gift to China. Remember, there's that Trump, uh,
he did that
she,
with we did that with Venezuela also. It
yeah.
really,
But remember, so there's this meeting coming up, right? There's the Trump or potential, I mean, it's scheduled Trump Xi meeting. And so a lot of this is playing into that. So we'll see what comes out of that if it happens. And maybe that's why there's the drop, or I don't know. I don't even want to guess, because the only thing that I've been following very closely Chaco's situation,
Mhm.
and like as closely as I can. And then things happen that surprise me. Um, so it teaches me humility, and if I can't even get my hands fully around what's happening with Chagos, then I'm not going to be able to be useful on this other stuff. That's why, like you said, I try to go as often as I can to as many places as I can and listen to people on the ground, um, like a good journalist, because that's the
Oh
people who
yeah,
live it every day can tell you
I,
if there's
the
something new.
the media is full of shit. I mean, anybody who quotes Washington Post and Wall Street Journal and talks to me about it, I'm like, dude, just keep it away. It's full
No,
of
no, just
shit.
only the Economist and the BBC, right?
It's absolute crap what they write there. I mean, some of them literally are contradicting themselves. It's on a daily basis.
India is a good media environment. It's like,
Oh no, it's rotten here as well. There people keep screaming at each other. It's bloody horrible.
well, I think there's some I learn a lot, and it's helpful to get.
Well, the strategic writing in India is
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
but what's happening is it's polarization, which like right now during the Iran crisis, I used to laugh. I'm like, I can see half the guys pro Iran, half the guys pro America and pro Israel. I'm like, what the freak? Where is the pro India gang here? I don't see them here.
Mhm,
I mean, oh, Iran should beat America. That's the anti-Americanism. Fantastic, great, love you. Oh, Israel will beat Iran and take over the region. Okay, great, fantastic,
mhm,
love you too. But how about me? I'm in the
mhm.
middle. Talk about me. And that just wasn't there. And that's the matter of polarization to of the media. And this is not just in India; it's world over. You look at the
Yeah.
American YouTube, which comes out. I don't see a centerline figure who's talking about, okay, the Americans have done this, okay, the Iranians have done this, okay, the Americans have done this, okay, the Chinese have done this.
Mhm,
What do we see happening here? To come to a center point, half of the janta is either just pro China. Oh my God, China will take over the world. China is just this, that, and the other. China is breaking the dollar. China is doing this. China is doing that.
mhm,
And then the rest is, oh, Trump, 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 Trump. And you're like, the reality is somewhere in the middle. China ain't that strong as well.
mhm,
I mean, as we kind of, so I've basically cut myself off. So I just look at the actions rather than the words.
mhm.
When I see actions, okay, this is happening, and see this. One thing in the Pacific is what is interesting me right now is that statements are coming out of senators and stuff about the Pacific, which I've not seen for the past 3-5 years now,
Yep.
and which is where it makes me kind of wonder if there's some movement within the Western Pacific towards this way, because as we discussed, the Solomons and this and that were completely ignored. And you said that yes, there is some political will which is being shown. So that's interesting.
Yep.
But how do you think the Chinese react to this?
Well, they don't like it. They they the term benign neglect was was came about because of the way the U.S. was treating the Pacific. I mean, that's especially the Central Pacific, and that suited the Chinese fine. And and they kind of have good control. I would say they manage the Australians and the New Zealanders pretty well. They're having a little problems with the New Zealanders now, but in the Pacific Island, I mean, the Chinese do. The Chinese have, they took Solomon's right out from under, um, democracy. They stole the democracy of Solomon Islands, and nobody did anything about it. Yeah, certainly Australians and the New Zealanders didn't. So, or very little. So, they don't they're not pleased with more attention. Um, and and you can see it. It used to be like in place like Solomon's, the Chinese would go in and then the US would try to figure out how to catch up and wouldn't really do it. But like in YAP, the US went in and now the Chinese are trying to figure out how to catch up and in place. And they're actually, unfortunately, doing a pretty good job about it. So, yeah, it's there's much more attention. I'm I've been asked. I mean, as you know, I testified before Congress and have briefed congressional offices and stuff. And there's there's a lot more awareness. I think people are rediscovering the Pacific. They had, as part of what I was, the reason I was looking at the Spanish American War is I was trying to figure out how the U.S. has looked at the Pacific over the last 120 years, and it had, as I mentioned, it had no it had no port um, anywhere on that side of the Pacific, and it had coaling at about 1898. It was in Hawaii, obviously, and then and before that, it could coal and water in Samoa, what's now American Samoa, but it had nothing on the Asian coast. And so the Spanish-American War, the U.S. ended up taking Guam and the Philippines.
Philippines.
Uh, yeah, and uh, it was it was not they President McKinley didn't actually want to take it. All the papers are all there's a lot of back and forth about it, um, but they needed the port, and they needed a port, and they wanted to ensure that they couldn't get attacked by the Spanish on Oregon and California. McKinley actually said, we had the fleet in Hong Kong, and I ordered it to take Manila, because if we didn't, we couldn't refit on that side of the Pacific, and the Spanish could hit our Oregon and California coasts. So from that time, from 1898, at the presidential level, there was a clear understanding of a threat in the Pacific can hit the mainland U.S. And so then very quickly, 1898, they took Philippines and Guam. They annexed Hawaii that same year. They ended up signing sort of a larger deal with American Samoa in 1900, built the Panama Canal, sent the Great White Fleet through the Pacific. Roosevelt said that they sent the fleet through to say that we are as much a Pacific power as an Atlantic power. And they built it all. There was a real understanding of it. But the problem strategically was Spain had all these colonies across the center of the Pacific, and the US took Philippines and Guam, but they didn't take the others, and the Spanish sold the others to the Germans, and then the Japanese took it off the Germans and then set up in the middle of the Pacific. So the Japanese were in what is now Palau, Federated States of Micronesia, Marshall Islands for 30 years, militarizing the center of the Pacific. And that set up the horror of the battles of World War II, where the U.S. couldn't get through that Japanese block in the center of the Pacific. They had to go down through Guadalcanal, then up through Tarawa, and then fight their way across, because the Japanese held the middle of the Pacific, the block in the middle of the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and after World War II, if you go through the presidents, like especially from 53 onwards, President Eisenhower actually had been stationed in the Philippines in the 1930s. And then every president from 1961 to 1981 had served in the US Navy, and all of them had served in the Pacific during World War II in the Navy, except for Carter, who was a submariner, and he served just after the war. So you had a whole run of US presidents who knew people who had died in the Pacific. And so they created this very unique agreements, compacts of free association with those Central Pacific. In fact, they offered that whole region, Palau, Federated States of Micronesia, Marshall Islands, to join the United States. They offered that whole thing to become an American territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of why I've been looking at that at the Pacific, is because we have had a generational shift where the World War II generation is gone. So they kind of forgot their geography for a while, and it was end of history. But now we're getting into, in Congress, a new generation that is looking at maps again. And so that, I think that's why, that is interested in logistics, that the renewal of the compacts got interest. I posted a very short clip of that Chinese construction on the Wuliai runway, and it got over 1 million views on Twitter, right? Just because suddenly people are interested in the Pacific again. So there are a lot of things changing
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting, which didn't really happen for the past so many years. When straight after COVID, actually before COVID, the Obama's kind of, I mean, I would say honestly, and pardon me for saying this, ballless diplomacy that Obama kind of took forward. It was appeasement at best of the worst of the characters. I mean, I really didn't think he was all swag and stuff, but his appeasement in terms of his policies were horrible. It created the challenges that we have today, right from the ISIS to freaking a crazy Xi Jinping to Pakistan to a whole lot of stuff which could have actually been sorted out during his years if they. And then of course the Biden, which was Obama Part Three. Uh, I mean, really, just let things go. I don't like Trump and his brazenness and stuff. I don't like it, but at least if I was an American, I'd be happy. At least he's taking a stand for his country. I
I have a
mean,
question about how is what's going on in Iran affecting Pakistan?
it's terrible. The entire heat is going to come here because see, at the end of it, Pakistan is a hired gun. Nobody cares about it. You know, you when you want to hire a gun, you make him sit down and have lunch with you, and you kind of elevate him to think he's God's gift to mankind. But then the reality strikes right now when the Saudis called Pakistan and said, "Listen, you got to come here and fight." Pakistanis are looking around saying, "Whoa, fight Iran? No, we can't do that." Because, see, Pakistan has a huge Shia population, right? And the Shias ideologically look towards Iran. So, on a blink of an eye, the Iranians can literally light up Pakistan on fire,
Mhm.
which they did, as a matter of fact. The whole attack on the US embassy in Karachi and um, the whole protest, which you know how many people Pakistan has lost in this so-called war?
Mhm.
The Iranians claim about 300, 400 people dead, right? The
Mhm.
Pakistanis have lost 75 people.
Mhm.
This is the second highest casualty
Mhm.
in the war between US, Israel, and Iran. Pakistan is losing people. So it's a very terrible sort of a scenario.
Mhm.
They don't have oil. We started interdicting all sorts of dark oil that was going to Iran. We started interdicting that, and we warned the Iranians, don't do it. Uh, the Pakistanis have this, this underground pipelines that they run through Balochistan and gets oil from there. The corps commander, army corps commander sitting in Quetta makes a huge amount of money from that because he straight goes into Canada, Toronto, buys a mansion, and he retires and sits down after that. That's a plum posting for retirement. Um, but it's going to be chaos. I mean,
Mhm.
I presume there's going to be chaos through the region because see, Iran is not going to be uh, a viable state. It's not going to be viable as it is. It was not. Now even more, and I think Islamism is just going to explode.
How does it affect India?
Oh, it's going to affect India. It's going to give us a heat of the same nonsense because we had protests here as well.
Mhm.
I mean, we had protests here as well. So the Islamic factor kind of takes in, because above all else, you'll find these guys pandering towards that, and that creates chaos.
Mhm.
It's absolute chaos. I mean, but the Pakistanis are going to be. I personally think that denuclearized Iran follows by a denuclearized Pakistan.
Mhm.
The Israelis will never accept a bomb within any of the Muslim states.
Mhm.
They might accept one kept in Saudi Arabia under the Americans, but they will not accept independent states, Muslim states having the bomb. It's just not going to happen. I mean, they're crazy, yeah, those guys at the end of it. Uh, I mean, everything that happens, they keep the first dialogue that comes out of Pakistan. We have nuclear weapons. Yeah, so do we, buddy. you know,
Mhm.
they're not here for crackers. It's just weird. Lastly, I want to ask you: is Xi
Mhm.
Jinping himself?
Mhm.
What's the reading about him in the Pacific? And you, as you said, that dictators won't kind of bank on his support and stuff. He doesn't go out. He doesn't meet people anymore. He doesn't entertain the way he used to, probably even 2 years ago. Um, there's only negatives about whatever said and done. When you throw out the tallest guy wearing a uniform in your army, it doesn't bode well for you yourself, because you appointed him there and then you throw him out. It This doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
like
how
I
do
said, I can't. I'm like you. I can only watch the actions, and I don't really know. And the from what I'm seeing from the actions, there's no slowdown. There's still the ships are getting pumped out. The training exercises are ongoing. The Iran thing, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know how the Iran thing will affect it because I don't know how it's going to end. This is very it's early days. This the I There's a lot of signaling, but I'm not the audience of the signaling, so I don't know how to read it. Um, I don't know, how I just there's so many factors. Trump is putting out signals now to try to keep the oil prices low because, if they go into the midterm with high gas prices, that'll make it even worse. It's there are an enormous number of shifting things. One thing that I can say that's come out of it uh, is I think that the break with or the fracture in the relationship between the US and the UK is now very real.
very real.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's US and UK. I think it's the whole aristocracy versus whatever's coming up in going forward. Because somewhere down the line, I think the old structure of the world is just, you know,
There's that. I mean, there's the UK thing was very specific though because it was a lot of it was maritime linked. So Lloyd's, for example, doing the maritime insurance and things like that, and the U.S. The U.S. There is a pressure on the system, and when you apply pressure, the cracks grow, and if there are cracks, and so the pressure was applied, and they saw that actually these cracks are the size of fissures.
Mhm.
That this stuff around the Chagos and Fairford and things like that, those are not little issues. We had been talking about this about Chagos for over a year, but now it's front page news, right? So I that won't be forgotten. And there was as I was saying, like there are things that are, State Department on a Tuesday put out a tweet saying that they supported the UK Mauritius agreement over Chagos. And then the next day, President Trump put out a Truth Social saying, do not give away Diego Garcia, right? Like within 24 hours, you had a complete shift, public facing shift of US policy over a very critical issue. So that's why, I just like I can't predict what's going to happen.
It's
I don't know. So like you, I just sort of look, okay, what can I observe? Like what do I see? And I see that the things that make me nervous about China in the context of Taiwan are still there. They're not pulling back from any of the islands. They're not I don't I don't the things that need to be in place, they're still trying to put in place. Um, but also the costs of the benefits of dealing with the Chinese if you're a dictator may have reduced and the costs may be increasing. And that's what I'm going to try to keep an eye on, I think.
mm, that's I think very pragmatic, because at the end of it, it's such a um I don't know, it's such a absolutely crazy time where things are just going, you know, one way or the other. People are just wondering how to even interpret it, and everybody kind of, because of their own personal biases, kind of interprets it in a certain way. And I'm sure I do have a bias as well, yeah, but my bias is my country, not anything else. I want my country to succeed and don't care about anything else. Last word, Canada. Finally, huh? There's a major software update. What? India, Canada, friends again?
I
You and
guess,
I be
I
friends?
guess, yeah. I was like, I was joking with one of my other friends in India that that given the U.S. behavior, Canada is becoming like the good neighbor, right? Um,
Yeah, I say that with the media reports. Mark Carney lands in India. India is a perpetrator of international terrorism. Like, okay, ready. What the hell? It was such a
yeah,
joke. Let me just say, there was such a joke, especially the Canadian media. I mean, I was laughing. I'm like, yeah, you guys have, you only found time to publish these reports when Carney is in India, huh? You didn't find the time to do anything of that sort before. So it's just, it was funny. It was just funny. But
were the deals that were signed? Do they mean anything
yeah,
to?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, good.
Energy is one of the keys
Hmm.
with gas disruption right now, which is happening. I think India is going to get some of its gas coming from China, from Canada.
Hmm.
So let's see.
Okay. Well, that's.
Nobody hates Canada. No, let me just say
Oh,
this.
I was getting some hate. I
Oh
was
yeah, I
definitely
mean,
but
see,
but
the
no, no.
the hate was the hate is about the policies that
Oh,
the Canadian government actually picked up.
that's right. That's right.
I don't
Yeah,
hate Canada as per se. I mean, I don't care about Canada. It's just, yeah, let you guys be there. Let me be here. I mean, I don't care. And
yeah,
by the way, thanks for cleaning up our garbage, because you guys pretty much have taken everything we had
yeah.
and said, "Oh, we love them. Yeah, yeah, please take." So in India, when somebody says, "Oh, an Indian got caught in Canada taking drugs," you're like, "Indian got caught? Thank you. We don't need it."
Yeah. We had it was that whole episode era phase was
Bizarre.
yeah, it was not good. It was just not good. It
I loved it, but because, see, I'll tell you why. It brought India into a power competition with the West, right? Which we didn't want, right? So, but
yeah, I think I mean, for me, as a Canadian, it it was embarrassing is the wrong word because it
see,
was
this has been
just
going on since the 80s. It had to come to a fall sometime or the other,
yeah, but it yes, that's true,
right?
and
Couldn't
yeah,
have
that's
gone
and
on the way it was going on.
yeah,
Something had to break somewhere.
yeah.
It did. That's just about it. I don't think reading any more into it makes any sense, because it's been going on for a long time,
So for me,
40 years. You know.
yeah, and the issue that's the issue for me, which is that the concern that it's systemic, and it's not actually contained, to an individual administration or leader, and that it's tied. It's like the poking up tip of the iceberg that has this big, massive iceberg underneath that can actually wreck our society. So and the ties between the Khalistani operatives and the Chinese and the Iranians and like it's just not it's all not good. And so you're right, it it was lingering for a long time and
Yeah.
came to the fore. I would have felt better that if it would have come to the fore and been dealt with in a way that, lanced the boil, so to speak. Now it's sort of kind of just dropped below the surface again, but I'm not sure it's actually been dealt with.
It can't be. It can't be, because the rot is. Let me just say this, and as a Canadian, you may not like it, but let me just say this: the society in Canada is going to be. It's going to take a lot of beating going forward. Let me just be very extremely clear. because the kind of elements that have actually gone from here, they
Mhm.
have no place to go anymore.
Mhm.
See, they destroyed their passports, they destroyed everything. So if Canada says we take them back, show us their details. There's nothing. How do you
Mm.
throw them back? There's just no way. So they're gonna be a boil on Canada's butt for a while.
Mhm.
Unless there is a crackdown as far as a hard crackdown in terms of internal security within Canada, and that won't be possible without the Americans, right? It would just won't be possible. It's not because what's happening is that a lot of this activity is based in America.
Yeah, I think, and again, it gets back to political will. I mean, we don't even have the right legislation in place to handle
So
some of this stuff. So,
that's the
wait, there's
thing.
got to be. What's a cheerful note? Let's end on a cheerful note. What's going well?
Oh, we're fine. We're great.
Good,
Economy is great. Everything is fine. We're
good.
okay. There's no problem with us. See, that's the thing. We've built up a certain amount of resilience to kind of figure this out. We've got a little bit of a gas crunch right now,
Mm.
but that's going to blow over in the next couple of days. That's going to be fine. Our oil prices are stable. We've got enough reserves to last out 90 days. We've got 1 million barrels of oil. In the morning, I got an update. It's left the Hormuz Strait. Indian flagship, no problem. Nobody fired at it. Nobody said anything.
Mhm.
So we're going to squeeze our way through. That's not a problem. And the only thing I think of the entire country of India, see, let me just say this. There was wars all around. Pakistan was going at it with Afghanistan. It still is. Um, Iran and all that stuff was happening, and Indians were like, "Dude, there's a match today." you know,
Good, good.
Even like, look at us. We're just not so freaking bothered. Fight, fight, fight. We don't care.
Mm.
I'm not getting involved. Chi, chi, chi. Not dirty stuff. It's holy. Let's play holy, and tomorrow's the match. And so it was a
Yeah.
nice, nice, beautiful weekend.
Oh, good.
Nobody bothered about it. I mean, nobody's bothered on the street here. A little bit now, botheration is there about the gas. But the government has said we'll stabilize it. It'll take a little time. It'll take about a week, a couple of
Mhm.
days, a week to stabilize it. Okay, fair enough. There'll be a little bit of a political drama about it. Beyond which, I don't think anything.
Okay.
Economy is doing well. We grew at 7.8% in spite of the tariffs.
Hmm.
So yeah, everything's fine.
That's good. I'm glad for some good news.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're okay. I mean, not worried about that at all. But let's see how it goes. On that note, Cleo, thank you so much. Always a pleasure joining with you and chatting with you. This is
Yes.
always more of a conversation than a podcast, and I love that. Uh,
Yeah. It's good to good. It's good. Just good to catch up. And
yeah,
whoever's stuck around to the end, thank you very much for keeping us company all the way to the end.
thank you so much. Yeah, as to the audience, please like and subscribe, and of course, share your thoughts. And if there's a particular point of time that you want to share your thoughts on, write the timestamp so that we know what you're talking about and when you're talking about it, so that we could respond or we could address it in the next podcast. Thank you. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Thank you.